presentation of BFA Sports.
And welcome back, everybody. The NFL Draft Bibles All Access Show is back for another Monday edition. I'm your host, Mike Gill. Ric Serritella, the OG from NFL Draft Bible Sports Illustrated, getting back from the Combine. Winners and losers. We're going to jump in. We got the mock draft from NFL Draft Bible and more right now on the NFL Draft Bibles All Access Show. Rick, a week in Indy.
Buckle up, yeah. Adrenaline and fumes over here, Mikey. Getting back to the Jersey Shore. Never been happier about that in my life. And, we're breaking it down, chopping it up. It's Combine in the rearview mirror. Got the new NFL mock draft post-Combine edition going up on SI.com. And, for anybody who doesn't think that there's a lot of moving and shaking on big boards and that grades are officially done before you get to the Combine, nonsense. It's human nature when you see guys flying around at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which was Lucas Oil Stadium. Like, there's players certainly to be getting bumped up the big board.
All right, well, let's look at them then. You were there, saw with your own two eyes, Combine winners, losers, who stood out. Now that the draft process has started and is now hitting full steam ahead, who's the winners, who's the losers? Go.
The quarterback position, I thought it was a loser mistake by Bryce Young not to participate, but he wanted to show that he could be above 200 pounds. For that reason, I think he sat out the throwing portion. So I want to see, what is he going to weigh in and actually play at his pro day, and what weight will he be there? But I think coming in at 5'10", 1/8 inches, same size as Kyler Murray, essentially. However, when I look at him, he doesn't look as rocked up as a Kyler Murray. So I have my concerns, and that opened the door. We mentioned it. AR-44, big-time winner. This event was made for an Anthony Richardson. However, the best QB performance was C.J. Stroud, in my opinion. I thought this guy has checked off every single box throughout the process. He's the only quarterback in this year's class that I think can say that. How about his teammate, Jackson Smith and Jigba? I thought he had a hell of a day, hell of a week. Incredible display of athleticism in the short shuttle. The 3-cone drill was through the roof. How about Darnell Washington? He got lost in all the hoopla of Brock Bowers down in Georgia. He calls himself the 6th offensive lineman. He showed off his size, his athleticism. That one-handed catch might have been the play of the week. Broderick Jones out of Georgia, his teammate, I thought was outstanding. He came in bigger than we anticipated. Kalijah Cansey, who we mentioned, came in bigger and faster than we anticipated. Nolan Smith, another Bulldog. Remember, we saw 5 Georgia Bulldogs in the first round. A lot of Bulldogs stating their case for that once again. And how about this Jack Campbell out of Iowa? 6.74 3-cone drill. Are you kidding me? For 6'5", 250 pounds, this guy was incredible. I loved Evan Hull, the Northwestern running back. All he did was run it to the touchdown. Every time he touched the ball, he took it to the house. Old school USC football style. And Next Gen Stats had him outrunning every running back by 200 yards by time the day was all said and done. Mike, I can go on for days and days. How about the BYU tackle? How about Stetson Bennett? I thought that. How about DJ Turner? You run a 4.26 out of Michigan. I think he's going to.
I was going to bring him up. DJ Turner, I thought, was one of the big highlights of the weekend for teams looking for corners. He was outstanding. What he done? 4.2. Another corner, right? Another corner. DB was the kid from Illinois, Martin. I thought he really helped himself out this weekend. But, everybody's tuning in to the All Access Show. What do these quarterbacks do? So now we got some big names. Now that the dust has settled, bang, bang, bang. How do you have them?
Well, for me, I really liked what I saw from C.J. Stroud. Not that it was the determining factor, but I think it was an accumulation. Once again, 5'10". I thought Bryce Young was going to come a shade under 6 foot, which was undersized. So now that he's 2 inches shorter than I initially thought, I'm a little bit leery. So for me, it's C.J. Stroud. Number 2 is Bryce Young. Number 3 is a toss-up. I'm going to go Anthony Richardson because I think he has rare tools that you just can't teach. And then Will Levis would be number 4. Hendon Hooker, by the way, had a very, very good week of interviews. He's in my top 50 that'll be coming out this week. So I think there's 4 quarterbacks in the first round mix. I think there's up to 5 potential starters if you throw Hooker into the equation.
All right, give us a mid-round dark horse that helped himself out.
Well, you know what? To me, Stetson Bennett came into the event as an undrafted priority free agent. I think when it's all said and done, you've got to think about him in the middle to late rounds. Why not? He's just as big as Bryce Young, who's being talked about as the number 1 overall pick. So I think at the very least, Bryce Young is going to be, or Stetson Bennett rather, is going to be a capable backup. And man, you got to love the moxie. You got to love the fact that he had one of the top ball velocities. So he's got a strong arm. I thought he threw one of the best deep balls outside of CJ Stroud for whatever that was worth. And his arm strength is equivalent to Will Levis. Everybody talks about, oh my God, Will Levis. Yeah. And then there's Stetson Bennett. His arm is just as strong, apparently.
Let me, real quick, Max Dugan's a guy who was in the Heisman race, obviously national championship game. Give us a little expository on his future. Obviously a big-name kid. People are saying, how come no one's talking about him and his pro potential? What do we think about Max?
Well, he's got some great pro potential, Mike. It's just north of the border. If you're talking about playing in Canada, I love me some Max Dugan. If you're talking about playing in the National Football League, I think his arm strength falls short. I think his decision-making is questionable and really just not the guy that I envision as my kind of next level quarterback. I just think he's a little bit short-handed, a little bit short-sighted, and a gutsy performer. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think his game translates. And we've seen guys like that. Tim Tebow comes to mind, like a really good college quarterback, just doesn't translate to the NFL level. Now you go up, you take him on a bigger field, you throw in his athleticism and ability to improvise. I think Max Dugan could be a player up there. Maybe he's an XFL or USFL guy. I don't know. I just don't know. I think he'll get a shot at the NFL level. I just don't know how long he'll be renting, not buying.
NFL Draft Bible All Access Show. Before we get into the NFL Draft Bible mock draft, the post-combine mock draft, which we're going to be kind of taking a look at here in just a minute. But first, what's next for these athletes now? What are we going to see? Combine's over. All the draft fans watching the show today. What's next for all these guys? What should we be looking at?
Yeah, NFL teams are going to be kind of setting their big board now, Mike. They're going to have intense team meetings, recap everything, gather all the data they just saw, and kind of lock players in by position. Also, a big part of the combine is eliminating players, right? These 15-minute date dashes. You get to know the guy. Can I work with him? Do I like him? He fits our scheme. This guy, not so much. And so now you've got kind of the resetting of the boards, and people don't realize, hey, there's still 7 weeks of due diligence. Typically on the media side, everybody that they've built up over the past 11 months, they have all this extra time now to break them down and build them down and knock them down, right? And so we'll see a lot of that. But also, we saw the medical evaluations in Indianapolis. Well, there are going to be guys that get red flagged and they get called back for a second medical evaluation in Indianapolis. You also have the top 30 visits where teams can fly in up to 30 guys, visit or work them out. And so there'll be a lot of that. And of course, my favorite part of the year, the Pro Day circuit here in March. Buckle up. Right down the street from the Jersey Shore, I think Monmouth kicks off in a day or two. Owen Wright, one of my favorite under-the-radar running backs. I think the best short yardage runner in this year's NFL draft, a 4-down guy who plays all 4 special team units. So we'll be dabbling with the Pro Day scene. And April, it gets a little bit antsy. You got a whole month of agents fielding phone calls, trying to figure out where their guy may land and trying to do as much pre-draft negotiation as possible.
Oh, and right, by the way, on the NFL Draft Bible big board, the 25th ranked running back, you have him as a 7th round pick. So let's see how Owen Wright kicks off the pro days. I like Ellis Merriweather, by the way. UMass.
Yeah.
You don't hear a lot of UMass in the pros, but he's a big dude. He's a guy to keep an eye on, probably an undrafted free agent, but somebody's going to get. We always look at running backs, and I know we have a running back we're going to talk about in the mock draft. The NFL Draft Bible All Access Show, post-combine mock draft. Let's dive into it. Ric Serritella, you got to trade up to kick it all off. We all think the Bears want to get out of that spot, and you agree. So let's start at the top.
Well, yeah, you just asked what are we going to see from this point on? I think we're going to see a lot of offers being fielded by the Chicago Bears and general manager Ryan Poles acknowledged out in Indianapolis, in fact, that he can feel the desperation of NFL teams trying to move up. And he didn't mention any specific teams, but they're not hard to identify. We're looking at you, Indianapolis Colts. We're looking at you, Carolina Panthers. And there's so many quarterback needy teams. I mean, even Washington, you wonder at 16, should a quarterback slide? At what point, you hear the Raiders are going to talk to a good old friend, Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe a reunion with Josh McDaniels. I think the Raiders are there at 7 or 8. You wonder if one of those quarterbacks slide. Washington at 16, could they be looking to pounce? But I think the Chicago Bears are going to acquire at least 2, maybe 3 additional future first-round picks to the highest bidder here. And, to me, in my mock draft, I had Carolina, who I believe, or no, did I have Carolina, Mike? Refresh my memory. The Seahawks?
Carolina at 3. You have Carolina trading up to number 3 to take Bryce Young.
Bryce Young, yeah, I have Carolina moving up to 3 to take Bryce Young. I have the Texans moving up to number 1 to ensure their guy. And I think the Texans have the number 12 pick, so they can package number 2, number 12. The Bears can still get the best player in Will Anderson at number 2. Or they could trade back down again.
I think the Bears are in a great situation. They can move down multiple times and stay in the top 10 and get themselves a boatload of picks and players here.
Correct. They could potentially trade down multiple times. And if they act fast and deal that number 1 pick and they deal it to Houston, they can pick up the Texans number 12 along the way, still be sitting at number 2, and still entertain offers from the Colts, the Seahawks, the Commanders, whoever else is still in the mix for a quarterback. I know the Saints are talking to Carr. Who knows which direction they'll go. The Giants, I mean, I don't think they're going to trade up for a quarterback, but so many teams here that are kind of talking to veteran free agents. The Jets, could they go Aaron Rodgers? Could they seek another young quarterback? There's so many TBD in the NFL at the quarterback position.
As we are live right now here with the NFL Draft Bible, Derek Carr reportedly closing in on a deal with the Saints. So the Saints could be landing Carr, which would start some more dominoes. I mean, obviously Carr, a possibility with the Jets. If Carr signs in with the Saints, the Jets now, they've got to go to plan whatever. Who knows if that's plan A, B, C, or D. But Carr closing in on a deal to sign with the Saints, which, obviously the Saints, they gave their pick to Philadelphia at number 10. We'll get to that one in a minute, but that means the Saints obviously getting their quarterback. And how does that change the quarterback landscape? Well, let's take a little quick drive through the NFL Draft Bible mock draft. Number 1, a trade up, C.J. Stroud for Houston. Number 2, because of the trade, Chicago. You like Will Anderson going 2. Number 3, another trade up, Carolina taking Bryce Young, so they get their quarterback at number 3, although there were some whispers, Rick, over the weekend that Carolina was working on an extension with Sam Darnold. I wonder how that might play into the mix.
Whoa. Hey, I didn't catch that one, Mike, but I mean, I don't know how much more you've got to see to know that franchise quarterback, not so much. Capable backup, I thought he came in, did a nice job of rallying the troops. I don't think I saw enough from his development and growth that I want to get entangled in a long-term deal. I'd be okay with Sam Darnold sticking around on a 1-year show it to me, prove it type deal. But long-term, that's a little bit scary. I also heard from Indianapolis that the Giants were working on a 4-year, $160 million deal with Daniel Jones, which gives me queasiness in the stomach.
That's the going rate for a QB, man. And I know 2 years from now, all these teams looking at these quarterbacks are going to have to make those decisions, which ones will stick. Number 4, you got Will Levis heading to Indianapolis. So that is right there. 3 quarterbacks in the top 4. Going number 5, Jalen Carter off the board. So we talked about it last week right here on the Draft Bible. You don't think Carter is going to take a big fall from this? How did that kind of play out over the week?
Yeah, I think it's still to be determined, and I mentioned that in the mock draft. It's hard to gauge how this is going to play out over the next 7 weeks, or what if it will play out over the next 6-7 weeks, because this could be a pending legal issue heading into the draft. Some people around the league thought it was a pre-calculated move, that Jalen Carter knew this was going to be coming down, that he flew out to the combine knowing this was going to happen, came back and did this whole dog and pony show. I don't know enough about the situation to speculate one way or the other, but there is some belief that that was done. Now, that being said, the maximum sentence is a year in jail. I don't think Jalen Carter is going to receive that. There's a chance he receives nothing. And there's a chance that the Seattle Seahawks, who have shown that they're willing to roll the dice, if Jalen Carter slides to number 5 and the Seahawks are looking at themselves like, hey, we have the potential to get the top player in the draft at number 5, I think they would be the team because they have a veteran head coach. He's managed big time personalities, as you know, Mike, and they can maybe tame that questionable character in Seattle. Who knows?
All right, let's get to the rest of this mock here. The next couple selections, which Ric Serritella, NFL Draft Bible, he has. You can take a look. Detroit going with Joey Porter Jr. So they go on the defensive side of the ball where they need the most help. Vegas going Devin Witherspoon. So the two corners, boom, boom, 6 and 7, which obviously opens up some eyes there. And then the next quarterback at number 8, Atlanta, you've got Anthony Richardson going to that spot. So that would be the 4th quarterback in the top 10. So quarterback for the mock draft.
Yeah, and I think Atlanta would be in an interesting scenario, wouldn't they? Because they started Desmond Ridder down the stretch. It ticked off Marcus Mariota enough to the point where he left the team entirely. Now, I mean, Ridmer did adequate. I didn't see a guy that said, oh, my God, there's our franchise guy. Anthony Richardson, in terms of arm strength, and Ritter's a good runner too, but in terms of athleticism, I think this guy is just light years beyond what the upside of Desmond Ridder brings to the table. Now, all that being said, should Atlanta say, hey, you know what? We're pretty comfortable with Desmond Ridder. Well, then again, a team like the Commanders, could the Titans be coming calling despite the fact that, behind the scenes, they've been committed to Ryan Tannehill? Could the Lions maybe even pull the trigger because Jared Goff's a pretty good quarterback? Hey, Richardson, sit a year or two behind Jared Goff and then, unleash the monster that can be. So I think, again, one of these quarterbacks are going to slide, Mike. And I do think that we'll see trades before the draft up top, and then maybe some trades developing throughout the draft with teams that are targeting the other QBs, which are Will Levis and Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, by the way, I want to go back to that Panthers report, Dave Newton from ESPN, that the Panthers were working on re-signing Sam Darnold. Now, it doesn't specific that they want him to be the starter. They might be just trying to bring him back in a backup role, but that was reported back on Wednesday of last week. So they're trying to possibly bring back Sam Darnold. Could be in a backup variety. We don't know. This whole draft process could tell us if they take a quarterback, maybe Darnold's their bridge guy for a year. If you take a guy like Anthony Richardson, you just kind of commented on the fact that maybe he needs to sit a year or two before he gets thrown into the fire. So he could be a team that has a veteran player that can play, and Richardson can kind of slowly come into the mix. All right, let's go to 9. You've got a trade with Carolina, and that would be Arizona. The Cardinals and their new head coach, John Gannon, looking to add some defense to his defensive mind, and you like Ty Wilson from Texas Tech in that spot.
Yeah, I think that the Cardinals don't need a quarterback. They'll be one of these teams looking to move down. Carolina makes a lot of sense in terms of a trade partner. They play in opposite divisions, same conference, opposite divisions. And Gannon, I think he's going to have kind of a year to turn this roster over. We don't think Kyler Murray's even going to be available for the first half of the season. So we don't even know what the quarterback situation will be week 1. With that being said, I think they can add themselves a blue chip prospect in the Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech, who some people believe is the best pass rusher, Will Anderson included. And so Gannon would love, he loves to kind of play a little hybrid up front, different looks, odd man fronts, and switch things up. Tyree Wilson, I think, is that edge rusher that Gannon can kind of build around.
By the way, yes, it looks like, as we can kind of tell you here, the Saints are going to make that deal with Derek Carr. It looks like he's going to be the new Saints quarterback. So we are live, and that is happening as we're here on the NFL Draft Bible All Access. We give you that All Access live. It looks like Derek Carr will be the new Saints quarterback, and they're just dotting I's, crossing T's on that one. After 9 years with the Raiders, Carr heading over to Nolans, and he'll be the new Saints quarterback. So that's there. All right, let's get to 10. where this starts the debate right here. This is a Philadelphia pick. Of course, Super Bowl, they lose to Kansas City. What do they look to add? Well, you got them going way outside the box here. This is very un-Howie Roseman going with Bijan Robinson. Some people think this is a top 3 to 5 player in the entire draft, and you got him going number 10. I don't know that I see this, man. I like the player. I don't know about the spot. Give me your expository on why you like Robinson in this spot.
Mike, I've seen the light. I've had some conversations with some folks out in Indianapolis, and yes, it's very unorthodox, against the grain of what Howie Roseman traditionally does. And what he traditionally does is build from the inside out. It's no secret that he likes to add bodies inside the trenches. And, there's still a very good chance that he might do that. But hear me out. Okay, you've got this once-in-a-lifetime talent, a generational talent that gets overused so commonly. But Bijan Robinson is the real deal. I mean, I think he solidified that out in Indianapolis. You've got a pending free agent in Miles Sanders who's going to probably command somewhere around $8 million per year. You've got a dual-threat quarterback in Jalen Hurts who you want to kind of reel back the touches and the carries. And despite what some people say about Kenny Gainwell, I don't view him as a true number one workhorse running back. Bijan Robinson is all that and more. You take some of that backfield stress off of Jalen Hurts. You make the backfield that much more dynamic, and he's a pass catcher, dual threat ability. Oh, by the way, the Giants, it sounds like, are not going to come to terms with Saquon Barkley. They would be the other potential suitor there in the first round for Bijan Robinson. So you keep him away from one of the in-division rivalries. You add him to the mix there, and you upgrade the running back position at a cheaper cost had you brought back Miles Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, Robinson had a great week, by the way. 5'11", 215, runs a 4.47. He's top 5 in the vertical and the broad jumps. I mean, this guy came as advertised. And look, nobody would argue. I would love Saquon Barkley. I would love Bijan Robinson, but the value at that spot, man, I mean, we just saw it. You can get a guy in the 7th round and win the Super Bowl, and that shouldn't be the rule, no question. But at what point? Look, the Eagles are interesting, Rick, because they have another pick. So is this kind of a luxury spot for them being at 10, or do they draft what they like to do, their defensive tackle, their offensive lineman like they like, and then use 30 to try to see if Robinson falls? Can they get him in that? What's the floor for Robinson? I think that's the big conversation here. All these teams like him, but I think everybody's saying, can we get him a little lower? Can we get him a little lower?
I believe the floor is 25 to the Giants. That's as low as Bijan Robinson is going to fall. And
all right, so then Philadelphia can get in the mix then at 30 and try to move up over 25 and try to work in there? No,
listen, I understand like Howie Roseman's philosophy and what he's done in the past. I also understand that Howie Roseman likes value. So I would say it's not a luxury, Mike. I would say it's a value pick because, again, if I'm getting a top 5 talent at number 10, that's real value. Like if I look back 10 years from now and say, hey, Bijan Robinson might be the best damn player in the draft and I can have him at number 10, that's incredible value. And I think Howie Roseman recognizes that.
I agree with all that. I mean, but the Giants took Barkley at number 2, and they're not going to keep him, it looks like, because they don't value that position.
Was it worth the pick? Did they get return on investment?
Not really. I mean, he was hurt. They made the playoffs once.
Do you think Philadelphia saw what happened to San Francisco once they acquired Christian McCaffrey down the stretch?
I think it all plays here, man. But look, Barkley was the second, and I know the Eagles liked McCaffrey in that draft and probably would have taken him.
And Robinson does the same things. He can run, he can catch, he can be dynamic, just like Christian McCaffrey. They didn't lose a game.
Well, listen, here's what's interesting to me. Giants at 25. Old buddy Doug Peterson's at 24. Hey, Dougie P, you don't want a running back there. Why don't we flip-flop spots? We'll throw you a 3rd, and we get into the Robinson mix.
Yeah, I'm of the belief I'd never draft picks are like lotto tickets. If I don't have to give up draft equity and I can get my guy at 10 and I have him inside the top 5, I'm pulling the trigger.
Yeah, well, I'm just, look, I love the player. I just don't know that the Eagles now I brought this up a week ago on my radio show. Like, hey, is it a luxury spot where we have 2 picks and we can say, Let's do it. This is the best player because you're right. Roseman goes for value. He values, and if this is the best player on their board at number 10, will he say, best player on the board, got to take him? I would be shocked but interested to see how that all plays out.
Well, I'll give you this one final thought. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're going to be sticking around quite some time. I'll leave this last thought with you, Mike, and it's rhetorical. Had the Philadelphia Eagles had Bijan Robinson on the roster in the Super Bowl, is the outcome different?
Good question. Very good question. Now, who do they not have, though, because they took a running back in that spot is the retort to that. Did they draft a guy there that left them where they like? I mean, look, this team
Well, I think you're just swapping out Miles Sanders, who's your free agent. If
in
you
this
have
case,
Robinson
yes,
instead of Miles.
yes, but in this case, you're probably losing Hargrave. You're probably losing Fletcher Cox. You're probably losing James Bradbury. That defense needs a major overhaul potentially. They might lose both linebackers. They might lose both safeties. I mean, there's a report over the weekend. All these teams are enamored with Marcus Epps. You know, does he get a contract you weren't expecting? Do you bring back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? Okay, now you need another safety. Does somebody take TJ Edwards? Does somebody take Kaiser White? You got Nakobe Dean, but now you need another. You're not going to draft a linebacker.
Yeah, but Mike, Howie has prepared for this. He has players in the pipeline. He has Reed Blankenship. He has Nakobe Dean. He has Josh White. He's got Brandon Graham he can bring back on a hometown discount. He drafted Jordan Davis. So he has all these young players in the pipeline.
We think. Well, there was a report this weekend, by the way, as well. Brandon Graham drawing interest. One of the teams, Cleveland, Jim Schwartz. Hey, buddy, come out, play with me. They're going to be interesting at 10. And one of the reasons why they're interesting is obviously this is a Super Bowl runner-up in the top 10. And we know Howie Roseman likes to wheel, deal, shake, move. Does he move up? Does he move back? Because this team lacks picks in the mid-rounds. Does he move himself back, add some more mid-round picks, and get himself into the 15 to 20 range? And then they have 20, 30, and they get themselves a fourth and a fifth. We'll see. They're one of the teams everybody should have an eye on in this draft. But you just talked about it. Moving, shaking. That's the top 10. Check out the full thing, NFL Draft Bible, the all-access pass. We're giving it to you Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays here on the BFA Sports YouTube channel, all the social media. Get it out there. Tell your friends, like, rate, review, subscribe. Hit that like button right there if you're liking what we're hearing. If you're liking what we're giving you, if you like what you hear right now. All right, final thoughts as we wrap up the Monday edition of the NFL Draft Bible All Access Pass show. What do we know? What do we hear? What do we think as we head into this next week post-combine?
Well, I think the QB carousel is going to continue to evolve because you just mentioned the Derek Carr domino. Well, what's the trickle-down effect? Now, Jameis Winston, not a bad kind of veteran quarterback placeholder. You know, people talking about securing a Sam Darnold. How about bringing in a Jameis Winston and drafting an Anthony Richardson to back him up? That could be a potential kind of combination. Where is Aaron Rodgers, or what is Aaron Rodgers going to decide? First of all, and what does that domino look like? Because Jordan Love, I believe, entering his final year. Does he play on a one-year show-me deal? Do Packers look to lock him up long-term? And Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm hearing him and Josh McDaniels could get reacquainted. So at $25 million a year, I know Giants fans weren't so happy about me saying that Jimmy Garoppolo sounds like a bargain compared to Daniel Jones. Well, hey, Daniel Jones at $40 million or Garoppolo at $25 million for the Raiders. I mean, I think they're getting themselves a pretty good discount there. So I'm really curious to see how that impacts the teams who trade up. Again, we mentioned there's probably 12 to 15 teams in the NFL that are kind of listening or open to changing who that starter might be come week one.
Give me a quick thought on the way out the door. We talked about Robinson. Gibbs had a great weekend as well. How far apart? If you're saying, you know what, I don't want to take a first round running back, but I like Gibbs. Second round, 30. If you're Philadelphia,
yeah, I think Gibbs could sneak into the back end of the first round. I think there's a realistic possibility about that. And we talked about my guy Tyjae Spears. He had himself a strong combine, and Devin Achane had himself a good combine. The running back group is talented. It's deep. There's a lot of depth. Even Zach Charbonnet, who reminds me of James Conner, could probably be had in the third or fourth round. But if you want the premier, game-changing, difference level running back, it is Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, Gibbs 4.340, 4.36. He was the second fastest back at the combine. And, last year we saw the fastest back was Isaiah Pacheco from Rutgers. He wins a Super Bowl. Gibbs, the second fastest, 4.340 at the combine.
One last thing on the running backs, Mike. Believe it or not, we talked a lot about Miles Sanders. Kenny McIntosh out of Georgia actually drew a Miles Sanders comparison heading into the draft. Now, he ran a 4.62 40-yard dash. He's one of those kind of stock down guys I didn't mention earlier in the show. And Tank Bigsby, another one. We saw everybody flying down the track field in Indianapolis. Tank Bigsby, I think, came in the high 4.5 range, maybe not running. So those are two guys where, the time speed didn't match up to their game speed. So maybe those are now day 3 value picks.
All right, there you go. By the way, Derek Carr looks like a 4-year deal with the Saints. He'll be the Saints quarterback if Aaron Rodgers goes back to Green Bay, which is starting to get a little murmurs. The Italian nightmare. Tell me, who is playing quarterback for the Jets? Jets? We don't know. Holy mackerel.
Could it be dare I say, a Geno Smith reunion?
Woo! Gino's an Italian name. There you go, Gino. Hey. Pie, baby. You got the Italian rep, and the WBC starts tomorrow, but we're all draft right here on the NFL Draft Bible All Access Show. Produced by BFA Sports Illustrated, NFLDraftBible.com, the social media platforms. Push it out there, draft folks. We're back on Wednesday. Check us out on Spaces. We might hit some news, notes, and nuggets while we're not here on the YouTube channel. For Rick, I'm Mike. Have a great draft day.
Shout out to Dougie.